Welcome to Ask a CISSP. So this is the Thursday episode of The Other Side of the Firewall, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. Speaking of which, with me today I have Dr. Eric Todd Hollis. So Dr. Hollis, I've been meaning to get you on the show for some time now. We were actually neighbors,
Yeah.
is what we found out, which is pretty crazy, right? Small world. And yeah, I'd just like to go over your background, your experience, what you're doing as an educator within our field. Just a ton of questions for you. Before we get into that, though, please like, share, subscribe. Always forget to say those things up top. The call to action. Just the platform is doing really well. We have a lot of great guests. I think you're number 21, either 20 or 21 this year, which is amazing, right? That's over twice what we had last year. So I'm beyond blessed. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. So I'm done selling stuff, right?
No,
With
so
that being said, yeah, if you could just break down, because I know you've had a very storied career in the military, right? So if you kind of break down who you are, where you're from, and your background.
sure. First, I want to say thank you for the invite. It's an honor. I've followed you on LinkedIn, so I know you're doing a whole lot of things, and I also know that you're prior military. So thank you for that. And yes, we are neighbors, but originally I'm from a small town outside of Texas, Silsbee, Texas, which is outside of Beaumont, small town.
Okay.
People don't know this, but I did 30 years in the military, 30 years in the Navy. I did 15 years enlisted, Navy chief. Then I retired as an officer. And you're correct. My career has been very vast in the military. You know, they call it cybersecurity now, but when I joined, it was information technology or satellite communications and stuff. And with that said, I got the opportunity to travel to more than 50 different countries and stuff and doing some, I would say throughout my career, in the Navy, one of my most interesting jobs. I used to travel around with personal communicator operational for four-star admirals and two four-star generals. And what I would do stuff like MacGyver in hotel rooms, setting up communications, traveling around. I've been to so many different countries, NATO countries and stuff. And that's how I got, excuse me, that's how I really got involved in the information technology or the cybersecurity perspective. I did it for 30 years in the Navy. So once I as in the Navy, I always had an insatiable appetite for knowledge. So I started going to school early in the 90s. I just kept building on that. And eventually I had my degree in criminology, MBA, and have a PhD in organization and management, specialization in information technology, focused on the cybersecurity. And with that said, it kind of launched me into academia. And I've been, teaching for the last 7 years at various universities and stuff, ensuring that I can pass on that knowledge to students.
That's very impressive. Like your credentials are amazing. So when you were in the Navy, because I did a little bit of joint forces, would you say your rate was more ET or IT? What
It
was
was more. It
your
was
path?
more when I was in. It was Iridium, and then they transformed to IT. Because
Got you.
Iridium
Okay.
was a antiquated term, so they went to IT, information technology. So that's what I progressed onto an officer community from that. But yeah, IT,
Got you.
cyber.
Okay. No, that's amazing. So 15 years. So you did 15 years enlisted, and then you decided that okay,
Yeah, I
I'm
went
ready
officer. Yeah.
to do
I went
something different.
officer.
I'll cross
Yeah.
over to the dark side, as we like to
Hey,
say,
I
right?
know the dark side, but it was
No, that
interesting.
that
It's good
that's
though.
great. So I don't know if you know it or not, but Chris Abercon, one of our co-hosts, well, as I say, he was a Navy chief.
Oh
So
yeah.
he recently separated from the Navy,
Okay. Good.
but you never know. He might go reserve or something like that. But yeah,
He-
he made chief just before he
okay.
decided to go full corporate.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I made chief back in '96, I was in Kosovo and Sarajevo. So that was interesting because during that time in the Navy, we have chief initiation at that time. So it was
Right.
it was it was very interesting. But it was great. I enjoyed my enlisted time and my officer time. I enjoyed the Navy as a whole. If it wasn't for the Navy, we wouldn't be having this conversation now because the Navy was my launching pad to all my successes.
No, absolutely. And I say the same thing about the Air Force. I know, like people like patriotism ebbs and flows, right? So it's kind of hard to kind of get the ear of younger people, but like joining the Department of Defense, regardless of what service you decide to
Mhm.
join, absolutely leads to a path of credentialing, education, culture as well, and then entrepreneurship. So I see a lot of vets come out,
Mhm.
and we have a leg up on a lot of our civilian peers. So I always try to nudge people like, hey, you might want to think about this. But I don't know. Right now, it's not necessarily the most popular of career paths.
You
So
know what I tell people? I said, education is the new currency of the 21st century. And I said, in today's world, you need to have an insatiable appetite for knowledge. Now, even though I'm an educator, I don't say you have to have degrees. I say you have to have an
right.
insatiable appetite for knowledge because some of the sharpest people that I have met that I've dealt with, they don't have a degree. But when it comes to cybersecurity technology, they're awesome. So that's why I use the word an insatiable appetite for knowledge. Wherever you get it from, get that knowledge and build on it.
No, absolutely. So what was kind of the bridge into education? Was it that it was something that you were focused on when you were either enlisted or commissioned, or was it just what you wanted to do once you retired from the military?
Well, I was in when I was a first class, I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia for 3 years as an instructor. At the time, they were talking about, going to school after I was getting your education. So I volunteered. I said, I'm gonna take this one class. So I took this one class. Once I took that class, I'm like, wow, the light came on, right? I said, wow, I can
Right.
do this. So I started from there, taking classes and progress. And I liked the intellectual challenge. And once I got started, I just didn't stop. Initially, I said, you know what, I'm gonna get my associates and maybe my bachelor's. But once I got that, I said, oh wow, I can, progress toward my master's. And my goal was once I started the PhD program, when I retired, I wanted to make sure that I retired having my doctorate before I retired. So it was just right place, right time, mentors, telling me you can do this. And
Right.
being from a very small town in Texas, I went, you know what, I can do this. And so once I started, it wasn't always easy. As you know, in the military, you have to be able to transfer, do this, do that, get
Right.
orders. But I just said, hey, I'm gonna stick with it. And God willing, I was able to get my PhD in 2014, right before I retired.
No, that's amazing. So I'm starting to see not a lot of doctors in general, but I'm starting to see a lot more people of color who are
Mhm.
pursuing and obtaining their doctorate. So I think that's a great shift. I'm definitely not there. Like when I finished my master's, I was like, you know what? I think I'm done for a while, a
Some
long
people, you
while.
know what I tell people, less than 2% of the population have PhDs, right? Of that, less than 1.9% of
Oh
minorities have
wow.
PhDs. But I would tell you, and I tell people this, it has opened a lot of doors for me, whether it's, as you know, I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a TEDx speaker. I do consulting, but it was all because of, having that insatiable appetite for knowledge and, just taking that chance. A lot of times people are afraid to go in academia. Oh, I can't do this. But if you just in today's world, there are videos, there are ways you can. If you have a problem learning or have a problem, there are so many different avenues for you to pursue your education if that's what you want to do.
No, that's very true. Yeah, there's I guess depending on what type of learner you are, right? If you're tactile or what have you, there are a lot of different avenues for you to go down. So with your career path, how was that transition from the military into civilian sector into academia? Uh, how challenging or not non-challenging was that?
Well, I tell people all the time when I initially retired in 2014, they were doing the BRAC. So the military wasn't really, the government wasn't really hiring during that time. So I remember that I did my resume and put it out there on LinkedIn and Higher Learning. And then, and I get asked all the time about how do you get in academia? How do you teach? And what I would tell people, when you have your doctorate, whether it's a doctorate or a PhD, this is what I would tell people. Once you get those credentials, you have to network. It's not about having a PhD or having a doctorate. It's about networking. So I tell people I was able to get my first university as an adjunct. Once I got that, the offers just started coming in. Different universities wanted me to teach, and and my degree in a PhD in IT led me into cybersecurity. And with that said, it was, when you first start teaching, I would tell you having military background is a plus in academia. Because a lot of times you're dealing with students from various backgrounds, you got to deal with different personalities and stuff. And that's where your military
Right.
training come in, being able to control your class, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person, having that knowledge to do that. And a lot of times The students appreciate that. I mean, you have to, in academia, the goal is to make sure you take care of your students. You give them the tools and techniques to succeed. And once that
Right.
happens, right, like in the military, your reputation, it follows you. So I've been doing it for the last about 7.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. Especially when I have my students that are marching the PhD program, when I've seen them 2 years ago and progress. That's really meaningful to me. I see that I'm giving back, and a lot of times my students will say, "Hey, Dr. Hollis, remember me from this class or that class? Thank you
Right.
for your help." So I always believe in giving back.
No, that's great. And so lifelong service is kind
Yes,
of what the vibe I'm
exactly.
getting, right? Like serving your nation on multiple levels and now on
Yes.
the within the academic arena.
Mhm.
So I would be remiss if I missed an opportunity to talk about the Hollis Group LLC.
Mhm.
So as I see as you're the CEO and the president
Yes.
of this organization, and what is its vision? Like, what is its mission?
Well, Hollis Group LLC, it's a cybersecurity leadership consulting, and I'm also a small business registered with the government. What I do, I provide cybersecurity training for either organizations, individuals. In addition to that, I do a lot of consulting. I've done consulting from the global stage to global organizations. So consulting about cybersecurity, consulting about leadership, and also I was, because of my company, I was also paid to speak for TEDx. So I'm also a TEDx speaker. So I've done that on the global stage and stuff. But Hollis Group is a service disabled veteran-owned small business that specializes in cybersecurity information technology. As a matter of fact, one of my key accomplishments was my company was offered to create cybersecurity for business executives for a company called Udacity. So I created
Awesome.
the course. They flew me to Silicon Valley to record the course. Once I recorded the course, the first country to take my course was Israel, followed by Saudi Arabia. So that course went global. So I really like that. And I get a lot of accolades on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, Dr. Hollis, I enjoyed the course," so that's really good.
Right.
So right. I think in today's world with technology, the way it is, it's no reason where you cannot have a global reach or a global presence.
No,
No,
absolutely.
absolutely.
So, outside of, so, we're about to talk after the podcast. So, because I'm not necessarily following in your exact footsteps, but I'm trying to kickstart the entrepreneur route, right? Like, I love my job, don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But being a veteran, I see opportunity to one day, be a CEO or president myself. So I guess I can kind of pivot into those type of questions. So like
Mhm.
LLC's already been established, EIN, all that good stuff. The thing that I think holds a lot of people back is kind of the fear, right? Being your own boss. Uh, I kind of speak to personal experience. It's risk management, right? Like a lot of the risk is on the CEO of the companies
Mhm.
we work for as opposed to yourself. What allowed you to kind of charge forward to make that leap?
Well, I just, in 2014, when I thought about this, I did 30 years in the military. I was always working for someone. I want to have my small piece of the pie. I want to have something that was mine. And people ask me, why did I name it Hollis Group LLC? Because I named it Hollis Group. I wanted Hollis Group to be an umbrella. Even though I focus on cybersecurity, I wanted to be able to say, yes, based on my NIAC codes and the government, I could do cybersecurity, I
Right.
could do project management. So I wanted to have a big umbrella that I could have that and say, yes, we can do this, we can do that, we can create courses. So I just took the leap and I said, I'm going to do this. Now, I will say this, getting the LLC wasn't difficult, but being with the government, being registered, there's a lot of paperwork you have to do. And normally it takes you
Right.
anywhere from 3 to 4 months to get it done because you got to go in, you got to have this, you got to do this, you got to follow these rules. But once you get that certification, small business or minority owned certification, it opened up a lot of doors for you. So you just have to have tenacity and dedication and keep charging. And
No,
also, it's great.
absolutely.
It's great to have mentors. Normally, if you see other veterans on LinkedIn, just say, "Hey, how did you do this?" And most people will tell you or will help you put you in the right direction. Yeah.
Yes. And that's I think that LinkedIn like for those who are not currently on LinkedIn, which I'd be surprised if they're listening and not on there yet or thinking about being on there. Like I'm pushing my daughter now, like
Mhm.
here's make your profile, what have you. She's
Yes.
a freshman in college, but I wanted to start building her network. She's going to go to USF for nursing.
Good, good.
But with that, just there's so many opportunities on LinkedIn to
Yes.
meet people.
Yes.
Even though we're neighbors, we never ran into each other. I believe the bridge between the two of us was it was either Courtney Jackson or it was oh man, I'm forgetting names already. I'm getting old. See the gray starting to form in my beard.
You're young. Well, I'm 60, so you're a young guy.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh man, see that's the same. Black don't crack.
that's what they say.
60 years old. Alan Wesley. I was like, man, I just talked to him not too long
Yeah,
ago. So
yeah,
I believe Alan Wesley was that bridge between the two of us. And again, that's just an opportunity that comes over at LinkedIn, right? Like he's
yeah,
not my neighbor. We had common goals. We reached out to each other. We did the podcast. And then through that connection, I was able to connect with you. And that's just the power of LinkedIn.
yeah, it is. I
So
tell people all the time, I say LinkedIn is a global platform. I say, well, if you apply for any job and you have a profile on LinkedIn, they're going to go to your LinkedIn profile to make sure your LinkedIn profile matches your resume. And if you're trying to network, especially in academia, I say, listen, you have to be on LinkedIn. You need to comment on post so you'll be
right.
known. A lot of times, so you have no idea who's in your network, who knows you, or you could be global, but you have to be involved. A lot of people are afraid to make comments or post on LinkedIn. But I tell people, I say, guys, it's a tool. Keep it professional, and talk about what you love, what you like, or your aspirations.
No, absolutely. And I would say as well as if you are afraid of maybe carrying the conversation, like you might think it's a little bit over your head, or you don't feel that you have the writing chops. I mean, we have a multitude of AI tools that can help you out,
Yes,
right? You type
yes,
in your thoughts, and it can help clarify
exactly.
and things of that nature. Because I often find myself like, does this sound right?
Yeah, I know.
And
You
I'll
know,
toss it.
excuse me a second. You mentioned AI, right? So speaking of AI, in academia, a lot of the students are using, Chat GPT. And this is what
Right,
most of my schools, they'll say this about Chat GPT, right? Use it as a tool in your toolbox. It can help you prompt your critical thinking, but don't use it to write your papers or total
right,
dissertation because you don't want to do that because it's not helping you be creative yourself. But don't get me wrong, a lot of people, I can recall when Grammarly first came out a few years ago, some academics were reluctant to use Grammarly, but I said, Chat GPT or AI is a tool in your toolbox because even LinkedIn uses AI to generate questions to
right.
prompt the critical thinking. So I say use it, but embrace it. My thing about AI, I have a lot of students that's getting their doctorate in AI, and I tell people, I say, hey, you don't have to be that subject matter expert with AI, but take the foundation courses so you understand how it works, and especially in academia in the real world, because it's a tool that everyone is using. Everyone is using.
No, that is very true. I usually ascribe it to being something like a better chisel, right? You still have to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
the artist, you have to be the sculptor, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can help you get over some friction points as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I definitely do use it as a tool within the content creation and things of that nature. But what I really want to do is I've been taking a few courses behind the scenes. I want to embrace a little bit more, right? Because it's a multiplier. So
Yeah.
my staff is my co-host, which I greatly appreciate, right? They bring the talent,
Yeah.
but all the behind the scenes production, that's all me. So if I can
Okay.
replicate myself several times
I
over,
have
I
a
mean,
podcast. I don't have a podcast yet. I hadn't started, but I have the equipment. So, based on our conversation, let me get my podcast started. So that's what I want to do because that gives you,
oh,
it's
absolutely.
a podcast, but it gives you a chance to, to talk about what you want to talk about. And people can choose to listen to it or not listen to it. It's out there. It's yours. You own that. So it's like having your own production, your own studio, right? So that's something that I wanted also. So you motivated me. I say, well, hey, let me get you and Alan, all right. Let me get mine started also. But
Oh no,
that's
you
something.
absolutely.
Yeah. Now, how long have you had your podcast?
So I've been doing this for just shy of 4 years. I think we're on episode 634 this week. my thing was so I started out with the long form, right? We're talking for an hour and a half
Yeah,
with
yeah.
my friends. We're bringing in it was me, Shannon Levon, so that's roughly 50, 60 years of
Yeah.
cyber and IT experience from different perspectives, all
Mhm.
men of color. And then it was kind of like, okay, we were only able to hold people's attention for so long, so why don't we just break it up a little bit? And then from there, I saw kind of like the boom from it.
Yeah,
Like now people were able to take it in bite sizes and say,
yeah.
okay, 15, 20 minute segments several times a week. And that's kind of when it got its hooks in me, right? I went from just a handful of episodes to now, like I said, we're over 630 something episodes.
Wow, that's impressive. You know, you mentioned something earlier, a lot of people of color into cyber. Well, I know in my world, in academia, I see very few of the younger generation, getting into cyber. But I think now with your messaging and Alan's messaging and other stuff on LinkedIn, where they're seeing minorities, especially I've seen a lot of
Right.
African American women into cybersecurity. Some of my colleagues I've served with, getting their companies off the ground. I think having that mentorship and having someone you can see visually that has succeeded, that it prompt the younger generation to get into, cybersecurity or AI, because now there's no, if whatever you want to learn, it's no reason why. You can have a smartphone or desktop, laptop, and information's
Right.
out there. All you got, even with Google, if you misspell a word, Google will ask you, did you mean this? so so you just have to have, again, I go back to saying you have to have that insatiable appetite for knowledge. And having mentors and seeing other people succeed, that's great. But I think in my world, academia, what I tell people, because I'm talking to a lot of minority kids, or I meet people and they're talking about, you teach cyber, and I tell them, hey, my advice to you is to have your kids or grandkids to navigate towards cybersecurity, AI, information technology, because next 3, 4, 5 years, and look how fast AI was when ChatGPT was out a couple years ago. And
Right.
now they're on what? ChatGPT 4.5. I mean, it's moving exponentially. If you don't get on board, you're gonna get left behind.
No, exactly. So I often say the same thing. Like you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by
Yeah,
someone who understands how AI works.
exactly.
Uh, it's just
Exactly.
a phenomenal tool that's at our disposal, and this is just at its infant stages.
Sure.
But no, so I completely agree with you. I was invited to Tampa CyberX
Okay.
last
Yeah.
fall, and I was on a panel, and so I like the podcast. I've interacted with people, I've talked to a lot of people, but being there in front of a group of a very diverse group of people,
Mhm.
and then at the end of it, having people of color, like there was a young man. And a lady who walked up to me and said, thank you for coming. You're kind of, we don't see a lot of people who look like us within the field, especially not speaking in panels and things of that nature.
Yep.
It felt great. It felt like I was back in the military doing the mentorship thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I do miss that. I'm not a 30-year guy, right? I did 20 years, 6 days. I was like, that is enough for me. But I do miss the mentorship piece, and the podcast does give me an opportunity to do that. So I do really enjoy that. So you should definitely
Yeah,
start your
I'm going
podcast
to,
up.
I'm going to do. It's a lot of things. I'm just so busy, but I'm going to take time. Like I
Right.
said, I have my equipment. I just need to set it up, and we'll talk offline about the process and stuff. But yeah,
Oh yeah,
I need
absolutely.
to, I need to do that. Also, what I would add, my company. I forgot to mention this. I'm also a partner with Osaka. So my company also, I can
Okay.
provide training for CISM and CISA globally. That's something else that I have under my belt. So I'm looking at that going out. So I tell people, I say, you want to have multiple avenues for success.
Right.
Whether it's mentoring or whether learning. I said you have to have that because you never know. And in the cybersecurity world, there's a lot of organizations that's currently laying off people. Everyone seems to be downsizing. A lot I see it every day on LinkedIn and stuff. But in my world, when a lot of IT people or cyber people get laid off, they go back to school.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah,
in
so
my world, my day job, I'm constantly, reviewing dissertations or helping students get from either bachelor's, master's, or PhD. So, but I do enjoy the fact that I've seen where information technology and cyber and the quest to obtain different certifications or get
right.
in that realm, has really changed and stuff. So people are really, looking at it now, saying, how can organizations go want to know, okay, who can I hire? What are the credentials to make sure we are not breached. If we are breached, how can we mitigate the breach? Because from the cybersecurity perspective, business, where it's all about the financial and reputational perspective of
Oh
it.
yeah, the bottom line is it's
Yeah,
definitely the motivator. But so and what I'm hopeful of is like I am seeing the downsides and the squeeze of IT departments,
hmm
the letting go of cybersecurity professionals was boggles my mind when ransomware is
yeah,
more expensive
exactly.
than ever before, right? But my hope is that they're going in the future they're going to see that it would have been cheaper to keep us, right? So you
Yeah,
spin these people out, you push them out, not just your risk goes up, but then these people potentially go out and make startups.
yeah,
They make new designs, new
mhm,
technology, new ways of doing things, and then you have to gobble them up later. So
yeah,
I would have been cheaper, like the old saying for marriage is cheaper to keep her. I would have
yeah,
been cheaper had you kept me on board, right?
yeah.
As opposed to now you spun me out, and I have a startup that you have to now gobble up in the future. So that's the hope is that we have a bunch of entrepreneurs that come out
Yeah.
and do their thing. But no, it is good to see that they're going back to school and also skilling up, getting new credentials and
And
education.
I think what I've seen a lot of, or even I saw a lot of organizations offering these, AI certifications, and a lot of schools are tooling their stuff toward AI or or human factors in cybersecurity. There's a
Right.
lot of all my schools I work for, they're getting AI program, or now they're having master's degrees in human factors. So everyone is looking at, not just, wow, we got breached, but why did we get breached? Why did you
Right.
as an employee click on this particular link? What prompted you to do that? So a lot of organizations, are wondering what can we do to, because again, you're only as strong as your weakest link and that person clicking on that email. But organizations now are trying to figure out, well, why would this person do that? And they're running they're doing the testing, they're doing the cyber test for all for different
Right. The
organizations,
cyber challenges and the
cyber
CBTs. Yeah.
challenges. But I just tell people all the time, you need to be mindful of that. Even little things like, when you're away from home, Starbucks or coffee shops, are you using a VPN? Are you not using a
Right.
VPN? What are you doing to ensure you can, especially if you work remotely, right? You dialing in to your office. For instance, we all know what happened with the with the airlines few weeks ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
again,
patch heard around the world.
yeah. So you got to think about that. But I tell you, it's a growing field, but still, all the technology in the world does not erase the human factor. It just doesn't.
It's very true. So I taught for about a year and a half when I was in Turkey. So I was an adjunct for UMGC. I loved it. I had a great time. I went TDY, so I had a temporary assignment with a security force friend of mine. Right,
Mhm.
we're both working in IG. So the multiple career fields can work IG.
Yeah.
And we make a cohesive team. So we're away. We get off the plane. We hop in the rental car, and this person who has over a decade of physical security,
Mhm.
and he's an elite
Yeah.
warrior when it comes to law enforcement. The first thing he does is he plugs his phone into the car.
The USB, right?
Right, USB, and it just
Yeah, yeah.
blew
Oh,
my
yeah.
mind. I just sat there and I stared at him. He was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "What are you doing?" So I go on my rant and I try to explain to him. He was like, "All that could happen just because I plugged my phone into
Yeah,
the car." I was like, "Is this your car?"
Yeah, no. With that, I tell people, I say, when you travel and you go to the airport and you wait out the gate and you got those plugs, those USB plugs, and you have
Right.
the power adapters, I say, do you know who's sitting in that seat before you? No. So each time you buy a phone, they have a portable power adapter. I say,
Right.
utilize that, whether you're on the plane or whether you're in a hotel. And especially in cars, you have no idea because once that's hacked or breached, everything is there for the taking. So you have to be mindful
Yeah.
at all time of your environment. That's why they have the cigarette chargers in the car. That's why they have
Right.
the power plugs. But yeah, you're absolutely right. People don't think about that or they get too comfortable.
No.
Coffee shop, they sit there like, oh, blah, 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 blah. You have no idea. It could be hacker sitting right next to you. He or she could be sitting there. You never know because you're not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are like, yeah, they feel really comfortable. Like there's a million USB receptacles, I guess you could say, in a
Yeah,
hotel. So you go to a
yeah,
hotel, they're inside the lamps now, they're inside the desks,
they're everywhere.
they're
Yep.
everywhere. He's like, no, don't do it,
You're
don't
right.
do it. But
So
yeah,
from cybersecurity, I tell people it has to be from the organization. It has to be an organizational effort. From the top down,
right,
from the bottom up, to make sure. This is what I equate it to. When I talk to people, I said, when it comes to leadership, right? Cybersecurity leadership. I said, think about this. If it's cybersecurity, I said on a Monday morning, when you go to Chick-fil-A on a Monday for lunch, they always have cones out, right? Now, Chick-fil-A and KFC both sell chicken, right? Now, if you look at it from that perspective and stuff, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference in Chick-fil-A and KFC is leadership perspective. What they're looking at, how they're managed, how the culture at Chick-fil-A is different from the culture at KFC. But if you
right.
go to any Chick-fil-A globally, or in the US, 95% of the time, you get that same mindset. Because I equate that to cybersecurity. If you have an organization where the CEO or senior leadership emphasizes cybersecurity, you're going to have it all the way down to the lowest personal totem pole.
No, absolutely. It definitely is a cultural thing. And so I have hope. I'm optimistic in that I see I have my youngest is fourth grade, right? So I have
Mhm.
an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and now a 10-year-old. I'm sorry, I keep wiping my eye. Allergies are killing me right
No
now.
worries.
So I went to his school. It was like the oh man, I can't remember what it's called. It's not the Great Teach Off, but it's something called that, right? Where
Mhm.
parents can come in and depending upon what your profession is, you can teach the
Mhm.
kids. So, I came in with cybersecurity and they knew what phishing was. They knew
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like they had all of this information because of games like Roblox and Fortnite and things of that
Yeah,
nature. So they don't want
yeah,
their account banned, they don't want to lose their
yeah.
currency, things of that nature. So I think they have a leg up, which is what I'm hoping. But stranger danger, right? Like they know not to talk to
Yeah.
random people in chat rooms and things of that nature. I think a lot of that is just, uh, it didn't exist like when I was growing
Mhm.
up. Internet didn't exist, and when it did, it came on a disc, right? So
Yeah.
there was a huge learning curve for my generation, and beyond. And I have hope. Like I don't know if. Like when I talk to my oldest, I talk to Junior, they kind of look at me like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat, right? Because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
don't do that. Don't, like we go to the hotel at Disney. I'm like, don't plug your stuff in here. Don't do this. And they're just like, but he gets it, right? He's only 10 years old. So
Yeah. I think people, you get in your car, I gotta make a phone call. You plug in the USB. I'm at the airport, gotta charge my phone while I'm flying. Yeah, I don't do that. I tell people, you guys, I've seen so many my military days, and I taught that course. And when I tell people about little things, like, oh my, I had no idea that could happen. Because most of your breaches, I don't say a lot of them, but I've seen people at coffee shops. They just sit there, they feel they're trying to get something done. They just got into the Wi-Fi. If you see free Wi-Fi, have a VPN.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
anything free, you're the
Yeah,
product, right? So
exactly.
if it's free, they're getting
Yeah.
something from you, regardless of what it is. So when it comes to initiatives, do you have anything upcoming that people should be on the lookout? Like I know the podcast is something
Mhm.
that you're trying to formalize, like because when you talk to someone who's in academia and
Yeah.
they're doing
What I'm looking
key
for now,
speaking.
I'm in the process of I'm getting ready to start writing my book. So I'm writing a book
I
about.
knew it. I knew it was a book.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be focused on, cybersecurity leadership. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I've been talking to a couple of publishers and stuff, but I want to get started so I can possibly have this done between now and the holiday period, November. So I am
Oh, okay.
I am looking at, writing a book and stuff about that, just about, cybersecurity awareness and cybersecurity leadership from, not so much, not really technical, but to let people,
Right.
the masses understand, how important cybersecurity is, but more importantly, how important cybersecurity leadership, whether you're a small, medium, or large organization, is very important to have that cybersecurity awareness mindset. So yes, book is podcast and book in the works.
There it is. Yeah, I was like, if he hasn't written it yet, there's a book on the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a book,
So
it's a
that's
couple
great.
of books, So I'm gonna write one. I'm
Okay.
gonna write my so-called quote memoir about my military experience in 30 years and stuff. 'Cause I got a lot of stories, a lot of things I've done within my military career. But definitely, yep, you're right. That is coming. I think I'm gonna try to do the podcast and the book at the same time. We're gonna talk offline about the podcast later
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still going to talk about it, but the key is seven. So regardless if you record seven at one time or you record seven over a course, they always say seven. So that's what I did. We
Good.
sat there and we I think it was over a 2 or 3 week period, we made 7 episodes. They
Oh
said if you can get
wow.
over seven, you'll have longevity. And 600 and something episodes later, we're still going.
Oh wow.
So
So do you recall your first podcast?
I do. It was on my phone in a hotel in Interlake. I was stationed in Turkey.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
just arrived during the pandemic,
Mhm,
and it was you left the PAX terminal and you went straight to your hotel room. Do not
mhm.
pass go. Do not leave your room
Yeah.
for 2 weeks. And I was like, now's the time to start this podcast because I'm going crazy.
Yeah, I could imagine. You probably look back at it now. It was in its infancy stages, and now you went global, right? You're like, okay, now I saw that you got over what it was 500 followers or something like something you posted on
Oh,
your.
the subs on YouTube, yes.
Yeah, I saw
So
that.
it was just a milestone because we weren't really on YouTube. There were
Mhm.
some videos released and things of that nature. But another, quote unquote pro tip is you share your RSS feed on
Okay.
YouTube. So over half of podcast listeners are on YouTube. So
Oh,
it blew
really?
my mind because I always thought YouTube just video. People want to watch
Yeah,
videos.
yeah,
They want to see
yeah,
people's
yeah.
faces, things of that nature. They do, but uh, more often than not, they also listen to their podcasts via like YouTube Music and things of that nature. So when we released it on YouTube, it grew at least 4 or 5 times
Wow.
just overnight.
That's interesting because, I'm from Texas and I told you that, and I have a rental property in Texas. And when I got the rental property, I had the guy doing my lawn, and he said he was gonna, retire and give it to his son. I never met his son. Just so happened we were talking on the phone one day, and he's a college student, and he said, Dr. Hollis. I said, yes. Are you the same Dr. Hollis that has a TEDx? And I said, you listen to my TEDx? He said, yes, sir, one of my professors. So I tell people, once you're out there, you never know who's going to listen to your. My
Right.
TEDx was about, tenacity and dedication. So I say, wow. And when I say it's a global reach, it's a global reach. You never know who's going to listen to you, but you have to find the avenue to promote yourself, your business, your podcast. You have to do that.
Right.
Right.
No, absolutely. So yeah, so you're already doing a bunch of major things, so I can see your podcast blowing up. Like you should
I'm gonna,
definitely
yeah, I'm gonna,
get
I'm
that
gonna,
get
I'm
that
gonna,
rolling.
I'm gonna have you as one of my guests too. So I'm gonna go return the favor once I.
I will be there.
Once I get do my first one, I'm gonna get started. I've been procrastinating. I just been really busy. I really because I teach at 5 different universities. So I'm teaching
That's
I'm teaching a lot, and
right.
I'm doing a lot of dissertations, and I'm doing mentorship, and I'm trying to do my business. So I'm constantly busy, but I'm always looking for that next big thing, way to grow my to
Right.
grow my audience too. So I'm always, I'm constantly reading. I may not say a lot on LinkedIn, but I read a lot of people's information. I post and I comment and stuff, but I tell people you have to be active on LinkedIn, be there,
Right.
just like you said earlier, get your profile. If you see something that interests you, comment, it's okay to be, you don't have to agree with everyone. You can disagree professionally, and move along, but you need to be out there looking at stuff. Join these particular groups, whether it's cybersecurity, whether it's AI, whether it's organization you want to follow. Do all that and be active in that, and it goes a long ways.
No, that's great advice. So interesting segue. So I always like to end the podcast on the everything else, right? To show the other
Okay.
side of a person. Because when I talk to people who are, entrepreneurs, they are,
Mhm.
self-starters, hard chargers, things of that nature. The majority of your day is, driving business, mentorship,
Yeah.
leadership, all those great things. What else are you doing for yourself? So, do you have something that you do to unwind? You have a
Yeah.
guilty
I'm
pleasure? Okay. Yeah. So I have one behind me.
I do mountain bike a lot, and I work out a lot. I try to do that. And a lot of times, I ride my bike, in this area where we live at here on the Highway 56 here. Or I love to, a passion of mine, I love to drive. I drive my cars and I listen to a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of audiobooks and stuff just to unwind because I tell people, a lot of people that work remotely, they don't think about their mental health. They're constantly working. You got to get out and get your physical and mental health.
Right.
It helps you relax. It helps your thought process. So I tell people, find an avenue, something you can do. Mine is the Peloton bike, exercising, doing my cardio and stuff. And, I don't golf. I do have golf clubs, so I need to, that's something I need to do. But I do exercise a lot. I'm trying to, take care of my health, try to eat right and stuff. So that's what I do. And I also, another thing I do, I mentor. I mentor a lot of kids, especially minority kids, from the perspective of, I do a lot of APA editing for people. I give them advice, or I've
Okay.
written. I tell you, one of my accomplishments. I had this military female. She worked for me. We were stationed in Bahrain, and she decided to get out the 10-year mark and go to school. Well, she asked me to write her several letters of endorsement. So I wrote her one. I think it was UCLA, Berkeley, Georgetown,
Okay.
and somewhere else. So she said, Dr. Hollis, I need one more letter. I wrote the letter, and about 5 years ago, she graduated from Harvard Law.
Oh,
So I like to
wow.
look at those
Yeah.
accomplishments where, and I tell people, I don't mind helping people out and stuff, giving back to the community. That looks good when you see someone that you mentored or you helped and they succeeded.
Right.
And I do that. So that's what I do, a lot of that, a lot of mentoring, especially, from the academic perspective, and just having milestones. Just what do you want to do? Like when I was in the Navy, you got people you're mentoring to become. I tell you, I seen some people that I knew that were E5s. When I got out, now they're E9s or they're officers or they're
Right.
captains. That really means a lot. A lot of them will say, thank you for your help, 10, 15 years ago. So I'm always giving it back. I'm always giving it back. But I tell people, I don't co-sign for everyone. If I co-sign for you, because two things, you believe in yourself and I believe in you.
No, that's solid advice. Because yeah, everyone doesn't get a recommendation, right?
Exactly. No, it doesn't happen. No, it doesn't
So
happen.
if I'm going to spend this time, this energy, and this
Exactly. Yeah.
pour into you, so to speak, then yeah, I need you
Exactly. Yeah.
to do your side of the deal as well.
I mean,
So
you
no,
mentioned
that's
you
great.
mentioned your children. I think you're doing an excellent thing by letting them know they see what you're doing. You tell them, hey, what do you want to do with your life and stuff? Because I tell people the one thing you can't get back is time. You can make money
It's
all day,
true.
you can be successful. Once time is gone, it's gone. So use your time and your talent wisely. So having, you say your daughter's going to USF for nursing, right?
Yes.
And I would take it, your younger son, is going to be in the cyber, like his dad, cybersecurity eventually, right? He's probably a gamer,
So
right? Is he a
I'm trying
gamer?
I'm trying to lean him that way. So Otis nursing, junior, he is a junior in high school. He wants to go pre-med, so he wants
Okay,
to be
good.
a anesthesiologist
Oh, wow.
when he grows up, right? And then the youngest, he goes to coding camp, so he wants to be a
Oh,
programmer. So he wants
wow.
to
Okay.
design
Well, at least
software and games and stuff.
at least he's focused, and that's a big thing. The thing is, cybersecurity is nice, but if you know how to code,
Right,
everybody need coders. I know my neighbor, her son is a coder, and I know he's making over 200,000 from companies. So yeah, I
right.
know that. So I'm just telling. Yeah, yeah, I know that. So coding, coding is the thing, especially now. You can code. People do the website, start with that and coding and this, that, and other. I mean, it's a great thing. But I will say this: even with coding now, AI can do that for you. So you
Right.
know, yeah. So
But
yeah,
it's again a force multiplier, right? Like if you know what
yeah,
you're doing and you use AI, how
yeah,
much, how exponential will that whatever you're building be, right? You'll need all of the components. You can say, well, I'm the lead engineer, and then I have,
yeah.
my AI assistant or buddy. But we'll see what the future holds with it. I'm not fearful of AI. Like everybody's like, oh, Skynet's going to take our
Yeah.
jobs,
I-
all these things. I'm
Well,
just like,
yeah,
nah, I really don't see it.
in my world, in academia, the students are using. I mean, I had a student. He defended his dissertation on AI in healthcare. It was a very interesting dissertation. How AI actually, AI has passed the bar exam, some of the healthcare
Right,
exam with an 80, 90 percentile. So it's there. I mean, now I think it's what? I think Chat GPT is 4.5, and they're talking about, 5 coming out soon and stuff. And now with 4.0, it's connected to the internet. So everything is right there. What are you looking for? But
right,
I will say this. One of the challenges of AI is AI itself is biased, not because the software is biased, because the people input the software, the data.
right,
So I think that's one field that, as a matter of fact, one of my students, she's getting her dissertation about AI, bias AI in policing, i.e., utilizing the
right.
facial recognition software. So I tell people, in with Chat GPT, this is what I did for myself. I asked AI to give me an image of Dr. Eric Todd Hollis. It gave me an image. It wasn't me. So it's like, so
Right.
you have to understand, with AI is only as good as the people input into AI. And once it takes that data, it builds on it. But you have to understand that if the person that's programming AI has a biased perception, AI is going to be biased. So you need to understand I would say AI now, a chat GPT will give you 80, 90% percentile, but you have to understand that 1% bias, a 2%, a 10% could mean people losing their lives or something happened because
Right.
of AI. So you got to be mindful of that. Like I said in the first comments, use AI or use Chat GPT as a tool in the toolbox, but be mindful it is not 100% accurate.
That's very true.
Mhm.
So, no, this was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that we're finally able to catch up.
Sure.
And I definitely have to have you back on the show, and hopefully your podcast will kick off sometime soon. Again, 7. I don't care what it sounds like. I
Okay.
don't
Hey,
care
hey,
if you're
I'll do
still
it. Hey, hey.
fine tuning. You
Matter
gotta
of
get
fact,
7.
the first person is going to be you, good sir.
Hey, I'll be there. I can't wait. But yeah, thank you again. Like your platform is amazing. I can't wait to see what's next for the Hollis Group LLC, right? Because you are doing such amazing things,
Mhm.
and I'm just happy to be connected with you. Again, it's small world, right? Like if you're not
Yeah,
using LinkedIn, definitely utilize
yeah,
LinkedIn because
use
I
LinkedIn and stuff.
like
Yeah.
you're not that far away from me, is what we
I know,
discovered.
maybe what, 2 miles?
Maybe,
Yeah.
right? But the person who connected us,
He's in, I think he's up by the by Orlando area.
oh, is he? Okay, so
Yeah,
he's somewhat
yeah,
local as well.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, small world. It's
It is.
crazy. But yeah, again, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it and stuff. And yeah, I notice you're doing some great things with your podcast. So, hey, I know you're gonna eventually I'll see what the next 1,000 episodes, 10,000. So you're
Right,
doing your thing. So and you motivated me to get this podcast done for myself. So I'm gonna do that. I got the equipment. I just need to just, put it on my priority list. But I thank
right.
you also for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. For those who are tuned in, please check us out at the other side of the firewall or the other side of the FW on social media. You can find me. I'm at RYRY Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on pretty much every social media platform. And where can they find you, Dr. Hollis?
I am on LinkedIn. You know that you go to Dr. Eric Todd Hollis on LinkedIn, or you go to Hollis Group on LinkedIn. You can find me there.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.
Thank you.